You ever get woken up by police lights flashing across your living room at 7 a.m. on a Saturday? Yeah, me neither. At least not until that morning. There's something about the way those red and blue lights bounce off a yard full of fresh Minnesota snow that makes you wonder if maybe you're still dreaming, or if you're about to get arrested for eating breakfast in your own damn kitchen. Anyway, that's how my weekend started, me boots half-laced standing outside in the freezing air, already dreading whatever drama had landed a sheriff in my driveway. Sheriff Tom Anderson was waiting arms folded next to his cruiser, looking about as happy as a man getting a root canal. Behind him, at the edge of my property, stood 3 of my neighbors, arms crossed, faces pinched, judging me like they'd just caught me spray painting the town hall. Tom didn't even bother with small talk. "Morning, Owen," he said, breath fogging up in the cold. "Got a complaint about you." Before he could say more, I glanced past him at the peanut gallery and just said, "Let me guess. The HOA." He shook his head like this wasn't his idea of fun either. "They called it in something about you operating an illegal vehicle, disturbing the peace, all that." I couldn't help glancing at my snowmobile sitting right where I'd parked it after my usual pre-dawn ride. Honestly, the engine was probably still warm. I'd spent 15 years keeping those trails clear, my grandfather's trails, and somehow that made me public enemy number 1. Tom and we go way back. He hunts these woods every fall, same as I do. That's probably the only reason he was out here instead of home with his coffee. Figured we should clear it up before it becomes a thing, he told me. Then Barbara showed up, Barbara, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. Picture a woman with hair pulled back so tight you could tune a piano with it, wrapped up in a puffy white coat, stomping through the snow like she owned the county. "Officer, I demand you cite this man immediately," she called out before she'd even made it halfway up the drive. "He's destroying protected wetlands with that monstrosity." The way she said it, you'd think my snowmobile was a nuclear warhead. Tom's got the patience of a saint, but even he couldn't hide the eye roll. "Ma'am, I'm the sheriff, not an officer. And I'll handle this." He turned to me. "Owen, you got your documentation handy?" I just nodded. "Give me 5 minutes. It's in the house." My place sits on 20 acres at the edge of what folks now call Pinewood Estates. Once upon a time, my grandfather owned all 600 acres, real wild country with woods, marsh, and a trail system he'd carved out over decades. He sold off a chunk when developers came knocking, but he kept our parcel and, crucially, the trail easement's official county registered clear as day. When I got back outside, the crowd had doubled. The whole HOA board, it seemed, was lined up in my driveway, acting like they were about to storm a castle. I handed Tom the paperwork, county records, easements, all of it. "Trails run through my land, county land, and yes, right through what's now part of Pinewood," I said. Tom put on a little show, flipping through the pages for Barbara's benefit. "Everything looks to be in order," he announced. "Owen's got legal right-of-way here, registered, recognized by the county." Barbara nearly swallowed her tongue. "That's impossible. Our development owns that land." I shook my head. "You own the plots, Barbara. The trails were excluded from the sale. That's what an easement means. You can build your houses, but you don't get to erase the trails." Then Gerald, another board member, skinny, sour-faced, the kind of guy who looks like he's always biting into a lemon, chimed in. "There are still noise ordinances. You can't be out there at 5 in the morning." I just shrugged. "County ordinance says nothing about noise before 7 on weekends, and when I start my ride, I'm still on my own land. I don't hit the HOA territory until I'm past your houses." Barbara wasn't giving up. "It wakes up my children," she snapped. I couldn't help it. I laughed. "Your kids are in college, Barbara. I've seen them maybe twice in the last 2 years. Even Tom smirked at that. He closed the folder and handed it back. "Seems pretty clear. Owen's in the right. He's got legal easements. He's not violating any noise ordinances. You're welcome to take it up with the county attorney, but you'll be wasting your time." The HOA huddled up, whispering like they were plotting a bank heist. Meanwhile, across the street, old Jim Patterson watched from his window, probably enjoying the show. Tom leaned in close. "Watch yourself with these folks. They're the type to cause trouble just for the fun of it." Oh, I knew. Barbara had tried this before. Last year, she wanted to fine me for parking a truck in my driveway. Newsflash, my property isn't even part of the HOA. She hated that. Barbara marched back over, cheeks red, coat puffed out like a furious marshmallow. "This isn't over, Mr. Randall. We'll review every inch of those supposed easements. If we find any discrepancy, we'll have you in court." "Go ahead, Barbara," I told her. "But maybe next time check your facts before you call the sheriff out on a Saturday." She spun around and stormed off, board members trailing after her. Tom shook his head. You'd think people would have better things to do. I thanked him and he grunted. Part of the job, but it gave me an excuse to check in. How you been? We made small talk. He asked if he could use the trails for hunting next month. Always Tom, I told him. After Tom left, I just stood there for a while, breathing in the cold. My hand found its way to the snowmobile running along the side, remembering being a kid 8 years old riding behind my grandpa. Those trails weren't just dirt and snow. They were memory. They were legacy. Grandpa taught me conservation stewardship. These were lessons carved into the landscape, not just words. But as I ate my eggs and toast, I knew this wasn't over. Barbara didn't let things go, especially not after losing face in front of a crowd. Sure enough, by noon, Jim called. Barbara's going door to door collecting signatures for some petition, he said. Wants the county to revoke your easements. Says you're destroying wetlands, scaring wildlife, all that. I could feel a knot in my stomach. That's garbage, I said. Jim just laughed, preaching to the choir son. But people believe what sounds official. I called my lawyer, Mark. He listened to the whole saga, then said, don't worry about the petition. Easements are legal property rights, not a popularity contest. But get ready, they might try to drag you into court. I'll draft a letter to the HOA, lay out the facts, and let them know if they push this, it's harassment. Next morning, I woke up to a brand new sign planted at the trailhead. Private property, no trespassing, violators will be prosecuted. It was 3 feet onto my land, concrete base and all. Real subtle, right? I took photos, GPS coordinates, timestamped the works, and called Tom again. Want me to come take a look, he asked. Definitely. We documented everything. You can press charges if you want, Tom offered. Let's give them a chance to remove it first, I said. But I want a report on file. After he left, I hauled the sign up, took some muscle, whoever put it in, wanted it to stay, loaded it in my truck, and drove it straight to Barbara's house. She answered the door, clearly not expecting me or her own sign. This is HOA property, she huffed. No, Barbara, this is garbage someone dumped on my land. I've got police reports and photos. Take it back or I press charges. She tried to argue, but in the end she took the sign, face red as a beet. But the next day Mark called. Turns out the HOA's planning a community center and park right where your trails run. Your easements screw up their whole design. This isn't about noise or property lines, Owen. This is about money. They're trying to erase you for a development project. Can they? I asked. Not legally, but they can make your life hell. Mark sent a letter making it clear we'd countersue for harassment. The HOA shot back a certified letter demanding I stop using the trails while they reviewed the easements. I laughed and handed it to Mark, who told them in legalese to go pound sand. That night they chained off the trail entrances, locks, chains, the works. I called Tom. They're actively interfering with your rights now, he said. File for a restraining order. And go ahead and cut the chains. So that's what I did, Tom, documenting every snip for the record. But things got uglier. Next morning someone scratched "Stop the noise" into the paint of my truck and slashed 2 tires. Tom took the report. This is criminal, he said. Do you have security cameras? Getting some installed today, I told him. That afternoon, Gerald from the board called. Maybe we can resolve this amicably, he said, voice syrupy sweet. We'll buy the easements for fair market value. I just said, not for sale, Gerald. These trails are about legacy. They're not a line item. He tried again, but I shut him down. You want to resolve this? Stop harassing me. Follow the law. The next day, Mark called with news. Judge granted the restraining order. HOA can't interfere with your property rights. Their lawyers looking for a way to save face they know they've lost. But then Mark added, I heard from a friend, turns out the developer funding the HOA's legal fight wants to expand Pinewood another 300 homes. Your easements get in their way. This just turned into a war. And sure enough, that weekend a man in a suit showed up, Richard Hartley, representing Northland Development. Let's make a deal, he said, offering $2 million for the easements. I'll be honest, my heart skipped. That was more money than I'd ever seen. But I looked at him, thought about Grandpa, about kids laughing on snowmobiles, hunters' families. I turned him down. He didn't flinch. We'll go to court. We're bankrolling the HOA's fight, just so you know. I called Mark. This isn't about money for me, I said. It's principle. Mark told me to buckle up. They're going to try to bleed you dry with motions and legal fees. He was right. For 3 months, it was motion after motion, expert witnesses, environmental claims, private investigators. Legal bills stacked up. Sometimes I wondered if I was crazy, risking everything. But then a family would stop me, thanking me for fighting. Or I'd watch the sunrise through the pines and remember why I was here. The trial came in spring. The courtroom was packed, supporters, haters, lawyers everywhere. HOA's lawyer painted me as a menace. Mark shredded every argument. He had conservation experts, land use attorneys, evidence for every inch of trail. The final twist, Mark proved the easements had been disclosed to every homeowner. The HOA had known about them all along. When I took the stand, their lawyer sneered. "You could end all this for millions. Why not?" I told him I'm standing up for legal rights for conservation. If the court rules against me, I'll appeal. Property rights matter even when they're inconvenient. After 3 days, the judge ruled. My easements were legal and valid. The lawsuit brought in bad faith funded by the developer. She ordered the HOA and Northland to pay my legal costs and referred the whole mess to the county attorney for investigation. The courtroom exploded, supporters cheering, the board in shock. Even Barbara looked like she might faint. Weeks later, criminal charges hit Barbara and 2 board members: fraud, embezzlement, harassment. Northland paid another $500,000 in damages and agreed to redesign their project around my trails. The HOA board got replaced. The new folks' first thing they did was pass a resolution officially supporting the trail system. By summer, the neighborhood felt like a community again. Jim and Martha threw a barbecue. I used some settlement money to upgrade the trails, set up a trust for future maintenance. Tom Anderson dropped by on his ATV. "A lot of people would have taken the money and run," he said. "You did something bigger." I just shrugged. It's what Grandpa would have wanted. The first snowfall, I rode at dawn, just like always. At the ridge where Grandpa and I used to eat lunch, I stopped. The sun was coming up behind me. I whispered, "I did it, Grandpa." I kept the trails going. When I got back, Jim was waiting on my porch, 2 coffees in hand. "You stood up for all of us," he said. "Showed folks that rights matter, that you can fight back." "We did it together," I told him. We sat there sipping coffee, eating cinnamon rolls, watching the sun climb over the snow. The trail stretched out behind my house, winding through the woods, connecting people, memories, everything worth fighting for. Looking back, yeah, it was hard. It was expensive. But some things are worth the fight. Not for money, not for pride, but because it's the right thing to do. So let me ask you, where's the line? When does progress become just another excuse to trample over what matters? Would you have taken the money or stood your ground, even if it meant risking everything? I'd love to hear your take. Share your thoughts, or tell me about a time you had to fight for something that mattered. Because sometimes the only way to keep what's important is to say no loud enough for the whole world to hear.